Well, happy, what is it, February, everybody. Here we are again for another live chat, another fun session with this wonderful thing called painting, and the way we can make paintings more wonderful, maybe ways that we can make them much better than just good, above average, better than above average. Anyway, uh, so if you're signing in now, or if you're checking in with us, go ahead and members, let us know that you're here. Give us a howdy and tell us where you're coming from, and because we always like to see where people are from. We reach out into the entire world with these live chats and with our regular videos, which I think is just a miraculous thing that we can do that. So before we get started, I'm going to give you just a few reminders and give everybody time to come in and get settled in. I want to remind you all that the Academy is there and thriving, DianeMizeAcademy.com, and this is where you can get full-length courses. And the courses are, I think we have about over 20 courses now, and I'm adding a new course every month. So these are full length, and when you finish the course, you will get a certificate acknowledging your completion of the course. So if you haven't already checked out our courses, go over to DianeMizeAcademy.com and check the courses out. Good to see all of you. My goodness, I see that list from all those places. All right, I think we're in, if everything else is in order, yep, looking good now. Looking good. Good to see you all. Sorry about that little glitch at the front there. I never know what's going on. Roger's controlling Roger's at the control, and I just am the mouth of the things.
I'm out of control.
Who's out of control?
I'm out of control.
Roger's out of control, and I'm just sort of hanging on. Okay. All right. Why don't we just get started? We want to do some emphasizing with color, and we have, as always, as we do with these chats, we always start out with a video that I prepared for you to introduce you to the concept, get your head kind of churning a little bit with the concept, and then we will have questions. If you have questions, save them until after the video finishes playing, because I don't think you can watch the video and chat at the same time. That's the old teacher in me. All right, so Roger, are you ready with the video?
Almost.
Hey. Did you know that there are at least 4 ways you can enhance colors in your paintings? Here's one of my paintings. We see only variations in value, hue, and saturation of yellow, green, and blue, violet. These 2 colors work well enough, but focus your eyes right here. Now watch what happens just in this area when I add red-orange to the mix. The red in the red-orange brightens the yellow-green, and the yellow in the red-orange brings out the yellow. Let's do that again. Now, eyes focus right here. Now watch. Now I'm adding more red-orange to show what the painting is really like. I didn't take away any green or yellow-orange, but our perception tells us I did. The green in the yellow-green and in the red of the red-orange are enriching each other, and the yellow is harmonizing them, as well as emphasizing the violet in the blue-violet and the red-violet. This is just one example of the many ways we can emphasize color by using it according to the way color affects color. There are 4 ways we can emphasize color. We can add a stronger saturation to a dull color, or we can repeat the color within other areas surrounding it, or we can adjust the value around the image that contains the color, or we can surround the color with its complement or with other colors that have its complement in them. Let's use this photo of a cardinal sitting in a kind of a dull environment to show you how that works. We can enhance the color of the cardinal just by capturing a little bit of this red and enhance the saturation. We just raise the saturation a little bit and just add it into these little areas right here. We don't have to add much. Just by adding that little bit of saturation back into the red, we enhance the color. So that's one way we can do it. Let's take that away. Now, another way we can enhance the color is by repeating the red we see here in other places in the environment. We wouldn't want to make this look unnatural. But what we can do is to repeat red, maybe in a lower saturation in the limbs like this, and you can see how the bird actually feels brighter just by repeating that red around the bird, around his environment. So there's the second way we can enhance that color. Let's take that red away and look at a third way we can enhance the color. Well, one thing we can do is simply to lighten the environment around the bird, or we could darken the environment around the bird. When we increase value of contrast, we can enhance color. So let me show you what that would be like. Let's just add some light in here. And you see already the bird is more pronounced. The color in the bird feels stronger. Now we can increase that even more. Let's pull out a little bit more of that light. Let's pull out some light right here, right around the bird. We'll take a little bit more of this away. We don't want it to feel unnatural, so we can blend that out and continue that right here so that we don't have it feeling like we did it. In fact, we can do some more of that right down in here. Just give it a little bit more value contrast, making the light around the bird lighter without creating kind of a false impression in the surroundings of the bird. You see already we've made that red in the bird feel brighter, feel more red. Let's go back to the original setting for the bird. Let's see what happens now if we add to the surroundings the complement of the bird. All right, so we see that the color of the bird is red, leaning towards red-orange. So that means if we add a little bit of blue-green to the complement, you see how that enhances the bird. Let's do that again. Take away the blue-green. Now just focus on the red, and you see how it feels more enhanced? Well, what if we combine that with increasing the light of the value? If we combine those two together, you see we get an even stronger enhancement of the red. Well, suppose we do all three things. Suppose we add the color into the limb. There we go. Now we've enhanced the color of the bird by making 3 adjustments. Now, would it be a little bit too much if we add a little bit more saturation directly into the color? Let's find out. Maybe not, maybe so. But you've seen we could enhance that color of the bird itself by making any one of those changes or by making all the changes together. Let's experiment some with this painting by Claude Monet. Now, what we often don't realize is that when we have paintings that have complementary colors in them, such as this one does, the complementary colors actually enhance each other. In this painting, the oranges on the left-hand side are actually enhancing the blues on the right-hand side. And it's the other way around too. The blues on the right-hand side and the blues in the sky are enhancing the oranges, red oranges, and even the yellow oranges on the left-hand side. Now, what I'd like for you to do is just focus your attention on these blue trees on the right-hand side and watch what happens now when I take away those complementary colors. I've substituted blues and blue-greens there. Now do you notice how it makes those other blues look really, really dull? In fact, we hardly see any hue at all in them. Put those complements back in. Now look at that blue. The blues really are very low in saturation, but we feel them more highly saturated because of those complementary colors we have on the other side. Let's do that once more and just give you a stronger sense of this. Now see how dull those blues feel and see how much more alive. And really we think we feel them more saturated than we actually do. It's relatively easy to adjust values, and it's relatively easy when an area is dull and we know that we can add a bit of complement in that dull area in order to enhance a color. Relatively easy to reach for the complement of an image's color. But the principle of using a complement or colors that have complements in them to enhance color often gets ignored. So let's explore that for just a moment. Green and red are, of course, two very common complements that get used in paintings. One thing that artists will often do is when a subject is green, only the greens get used, the green family, yellow green, green, blue green, and variations in green or variations in the values of green, even the saturations of green. But the master artist knew that if we reach over into any of these colors that have red in them, that will also enhance the green. Look at all the colors that have red in them. Red violet, red, red orange, orange, yellow orange. All these have red in them. And that means that these colors are going to enhance a green or any green, any color that is in the green family. Any of these that have red in them is going to enhance that color. And the way that happens, of course, if you're using a direct complement, red, which has nothing but red in it, it's going to be a more stark contrast. But on this side, the red, orange, orange, and yellow orange also have yellow in them, and so does green. So when we use these three to enhance the green, we also have that extra element of yellow within these that harmonizes with green because of the yellow that's in green. That works around the wheel with every set of complements that are primary and secondary. A tertiary, it works, but it's a little bit closer because the tertiaries already have two colors in them. So we're a little bit freer with the tertiaries. But I wanted to point that out. And now, this Richard Schmid painting is a fine example of how that works. Watch what those greens do when I take away the oranges and the yellow oranges and the red oranges. It's still a beautiful painting, but if you'll notice, the greens don't have quite the life. It just feels a bit overpowering when we don't have those warm colors in there. So you can see now how much richer a painting can be when we use among a color other colors that include both the color's complement and a color that they all have in common. Let's stop now and let you ask your questions. So if you have any questions now, it's time to ask them, and I'll do my best to answer your questions. The thing about the emphasizing color is it's not necessary. Well, it's how our eyes are seeing color. That when I was showing you that Monet painting, for example, and the blue tree, the trees on the blue side, when you're looking at the two colors together, the oranges, the red oranges, yellow oranges on one side, and the blue on the other. When we look at those two colors together, we're not aware. We really think that blue is bluer than than the colors he actually put there. But then when we take those warm colors away, and you see the more saturated blues on the other side, you see really how how desaturated the blues in the trees on the right-hand side really are. And it's just amazing what we can do with color to emphasize one color without touching that color. So I really showed you that when I was showing you those 4 ways that we can emphasize color. I was really showing you that, first of all, showing you how we can, of course, make a color a little bit more saturated. But that doesn't always answer the question. Sometimes the situation is, if you make the color more saturated, it just feels it feels out of character. It doesn't feel right within the atmosphere that whatever the image is located. So knowing that we can adjust things around those images to emphasize the color is, to me, just a sort of a miraculous thing with painting. Now let's see, are we getting any questions? Any of you have any questions, or anything that stimulated your thought processes about what color does the color? I guess I say that phrase in this teaching. I say that phrase more than any other phrase that I say, and that is, what color does the color? Too often we get just caught up with putting color on something to just describe it, just describe the thing with color. But painting is more than that. Painting is more than just describing with color. Painting is using color in a way that we are enhancing not just the description, but we're also making the whole painting, not just the images we put into the painting, but that we're making the whole painting important by the way we use the color. Of course, the way we arrange images is a part of that too, a very big part of that. But color for the painter is the unique, what would you say, unique element that the painter is dealing with. And so knowing that we can use color in more ways than just describing images just frees us up to do so many wonderful things with our painting. Okay, now let's see. Cheryl, will the enhancement be best at the same value? When we're just enhancing color, Cheryl, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be the same value. Of course, we know if we are creating luminism with enhancing color, it does need to be the same value. Luminism just doesn't work very well with contrasting values. Luminism is a hue thing, more of a hue thing that has to do with either the contrasting of complementary colors in hue within or that are side by side or moving into each other, or the contrasting degrees of saturation of hues. But when we're just enhancing, just emphasizing the color, if we give a value contrast to it, that's one way we can emphasize it. See, just by contrasting a value. Sometimes the contrasting is not going to be what the image needs. So one part of our job as a painter is to detect what we would need to do to enhance that color. Now you might discover other ways too, but these 4 major ways that I pointed out to you there in the video that will actually play that role of enhancing the color. So no, it doesn't. It doesn't necessarily. They don't have to be in the same value range to be enhanced or to be emphasized. The word I use here is emphasized. Enhance is part of it. Okay, Patty. Hello from Verde, Reno, Nevada. Do we think about adding complementary colors after we paint the scene? We have all these phases that we go through. I'm trying to hide my mouth in case I'm not synced, so it doesn't throw you off too bad. We are manipulating color throughout the painting process, and once we get color on the canvas, I usually think of the block-in process as getting the canvas covered with the colors in their values that I want them to be. From that point, once we start doing that, we are watching what color is doing to color. So there's not just one place in a painting where we stop to emphasize color. Usually when we get towards the end of the painting, or we get into that refinement phase where we're bringing it to a conclusion, we will see more where we really want to place maybe more emphasis on one area of color than we do on another. But we're doing that, watching what color does to color all the way through the painting. And then towards the end, we're standing back and we're saying, do I need to give that a little extra punch? Do I need to put a little, or do I need to bring the eye over here in order to emphasize something here? There's no way to really to describe that, because every painting any of us creates is going to be different. We're different from each other, and every painting is going to be different from the one before. So it happens all the way through the painting. Do we add complementary colors after that's what she said, basically. Complementary colors, yes. No, it's just what I said just then. No, let's see. Okay,
Sacred Soaks.
Huh?
Sacred Soaks.
Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge. It's my pleasure. I love doing this, and if you don't know that by now, you know it now. Matt says, is the use of complement and emphasis at distance as well as mixing the results in desaturation? Is the use of a complement and emphasis at a distance as well as mixing will result in desaturation? Wherever you have, wherever you have two complements together, they're going to be emphasizing each other. If I understand your question correctly, Matt, usually if you're talking about distance in a landscape, distance doesn't really allow us to see color clearly. If we are looking at a sunset, which is certainly in the distance, there's where we are going to see color clearly. And in that case, if we can place emphasis on a color that we're seeing in the sky by using these principles, any one of these principles I talked about. One of the major ways that luminists used those was with putting complements, interweaving complements together at their same value level or at a different saturation level. For example, one saturation of any hue will be a contrast with a lower or higher saturation of the same hue. And the luminists saw that they could use those together, those saturations together, interweave them at the same value level, and it did cause that luminism. So if I didn't answer that, Matt, perhaps try asking it another way and see if I can understand it better this time. Anna says, how can we enhance an outdoor painting using the color gray? Well, let's change some language here, Anna. Will you bear with me here if I have you to change some language? Gray is not a color. Gray is a condition. Gray is a word that we use when we speak of colors that have very little hue in them. So we may have a very desaturated color that someone may call gray, but we may have we may have several hues that are within those gray areas. For example, if you have a desaturated orange, kind of like, let's see if I can point to the sky. Oh, there we go, right up there, right up there. There's a good example right there. Right where my finger is right there is a desaturated orange or red orange. Right beside it, just above it, is a more highly saturated orange. Those two together contrast with each other. And if you squint, you'll notice they're pretty much in the same value. This one gets more light at the end, but as this color right in here, you see there's a certain area in there where it's the same value. So the words black, gray, and white are not color words. I know people use them that way, but they are not hue words. They don't describe a hue. They describe a degree of saturation of a hue. And so, well, black is just black. Black indicates no light. White indicates all light. And then those values without any hue in them, in between black and white, are various degrees of gray with no hue. So gray implies or communicates no saturation or low saturation. So Anna, tell me if I answered that. So Rich says, so it's best to have a plan before you start painting rather than improvising. No. It's better to emphasize, because we are watching what's happening while we're doing it. We have a general plan when we start, but if we try to figure it out ahead of time, we're going to create a stilted painting. So part of why we learn this stuff is so that we can learn to improvise it, so we can learn to improvise or respond to, so we can learn how to see and respond to what we're seeing in the painting. So when we can relax and do that as we're developing the painting, instead of trying to make it aim someplace in color, in dealing with the color, then that's where the real creativity come in. And so we need to give ourselves as much of that creative freedom as we possibly can. So is that Jean says, just now joined the chat. The painting behind you is awesome. Is that actually a painting?
Pixabay.
Is it Pixabay?
It is a graphic.
It's a graphic from Pixabay.
Yeah.
We don't know who did it.
Pixabay.com. No, I don't.
Okay. We do this. Pixabay.com is a place where they've got all kinds of images available that are non-copyrighted. They're, what do we call it? Public domain?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we get a lot of our illustrations from there, and that's where Roger got this. So yes, it is. It's lovely. Colleen says, how does the rules of color emphasis change when creating non-objective painting or something abstract? Can I help you change some language there, Colleen? Can we delete the word rule? Because if we think of it as a rule, we restrict ourselves like this. But when we think of it as cause and effect, we give ourselves more freedom. The color, what color does to color, how color behaves, one color against the other, is exactly the same in abstract and non-objective painting as it is in realistic painting. So the only difference in abstract painting and realistic painting is that realistic painting is dealing with images, the images that we can recognize, and the imagery is part of what the painting is about. In true non-objective painting, there are no images. Now, I'm talking about truly non-objective painting. There are no images. It's the elements of the visual elements that are the subject in non-objective painting. And many times for many non-objective painters, color is the subject. So what the painting is about is what color does to color. And sometimes if you go and look up some of the non-objective painters, or those that were dealing with the color field painters, they were like Helen Frankenthaler and a few others. They were dealing solely with color, what color does to color. So no, there's no difference whatsoever. When you understand what color does to color, how color can emphasize color, the different ways we use color for repeating to keep to lead the eye through the painting, all different kinds of things that we do with color. That is what non-objective painters deal with. Okay, Cheryl, I'm wondering if Matt was asking whether you need to keep the complementary colors separate across the painting, not laid next to each other. Otherwise, they may desaturate each other. Well, the answer to that would be don't make a rule about that, because what we're responding to, sometimes we will need complementary colors. Sometimes we need them side by side. Sometimes we need them mixed together. Sometimes we need them entwined. One blended, one just semi-blended into the other. We see that in the luminous painters an awful lot too, where it's the way two complements will be just you can see them gradating one into the other, where they're gradually blended but not quite, and it will calls that luminism, but otherwise, what would you say? The colors they will only desaturate each other when they are mixed together, and the degree to which they desaturate each other. I'm talking about complements now. The degree to which they desaturate each other, it depends on how much of one goes into the other. So remember that when we're working with color, we're working with mixing. When we mix two colors together, as well as placing colors in together, or placing colors in various vicinities throughout the painting. So what this lesson is about is more about placing the color in vicinity, how one color is going to affect another when it's in the area of a color rather than mixed in with a color. I don't think I made that clear probably at the beginning of the video. Let's see, Cheryl. Okay, now what was next? Observing John Singer Sargent's paintings. Who is this? Adler. Observing John Singer Sargent's paintings they look just freely painted in the alla prima style, while the faces perhaps move more in layering technique. Can you share your observation about his technique? Yes, well, alla prima doesn't mean that you're not manipulating color. John Singer Sargent did paint when he was painting from his own impetus, not doing commissions. That's where we see the real masterful work of John Singer Sargent. We see it in the commissions too, those portrait commissions that he did so many of. But I'm thinking right now the one, of course there are several that are really stand out, but the one I'm thinking of now is the one that is called The Oyster Gatherers or Fishmongers. I've seen several titles. He actually did two versions of that painting. It's alla prima to the point that he's not picking at it. In other words, John Singer Sargent, new color. John Singer Sargent, new color, like a chef knows ingredients of cooking. And he didn't have to think about it. He knew it so well, he didn't have to think about it. But he was using color masterfully. He was using color according to what color does to color. And if you look at that, the painting I'm talking about that's called the Oyster Gatherers, you could say there he is only using a palette of two color families of the blues and the oranges. And he's using variations in value. He's using variations of those. He's using variations of the colors and the orange and colors. You see where it goes toward the yellow oranges sometimes, and it goes toward the red oranges and other times. You can see in the blues how he's done the same sort of thing. Like the blue in the sky goes more towards the blue that leans towards green, and then the blues in some of the clothing, if I remember correctly, goes into a deeper, almost towards violet blue. So he's using color to guide your eye and to allow, so that your eye is, one color is pulling your eye into another color, into another color. That's one way we use color beyond just pure description. So, Alla Prima Alla Prima has taken on a number of meanings. It used to just mean paintings completed in one sitting, but it has come to mean a more direct approach where the painting is more spontaneous rather than being layered and layered and layered and layered and worked on and worked on and worked on. Where in his work, most of the studies that we have of his work, we can see it's very, very spontaneous. You almost feel alla prima in the fact that you can see the strokes, but the more finished work is a little bit more deliberately put together. So I think the word alla prima. The word alla prima doesn't necessarily, in today's language and the way we use it, it merely means that the painter is putting a stroke of paint down and going forward, rather than putting a stroke down and picking at it over and over and over again. So I think maybe I'm digging myself into a little bit of a ditch there, so I'm going to stop that right there. But if I didn't answer your question, or Adler, tell me, and I will see what else I can do with it. Let's see. Okay, good, Matt. You said that's what you were trying to say. All right. Well, I really, I always prefer conversations with students where I can see you and hear you. Sometimes the written word doesn't really always communicate the intention, and sometimes I'm not the best in the world at looking at the written word and always being able to see what the intention was. So I'm glad we finally hashed that out. Thanks to was it Cheryl there that kind of helped us out a little bit? Okay, now Catherine says, enjoying your chats in excellent tuition. Cold here in Scotland. Well, I'm so glad to see, Catherine, see that you're tuning in all the way from Scotland, and just stay warm. Okay, do we have any other questions come in? How we're doing on time? While we're talking about the color, if any of you who are on the chat now are really interested, I'm having a workshop on color. Of course, anybody that's watching this afterwards is not going to benefit from this, but we have 3 places left in this workshop. And this particular workshop, which is going to be on February the 26th, is it? Oh gosh, I've forgotten the day. I think that's about right.
Yeah.
This particular workshop is on simultaneous contrast, so how color can work with simultaneous contrast. And a lot of people think that when we're using simultaneous contrast, we're only doing luminism, but that's not true. There are other ways that simultaneous contrast can work in paintings too. So if you're really interested in that, go to DianeMunsAcademy.com, DIANNE. My Diane has 2 N's, if you haven't already discovered that. And in the menu, I think the menu title is Diane's Workshops. Click on the menu title, and you can register for that. We only have, as I said, we only have 3 spaces left there, so just thought I'd throw that out. That beats the YouTube ads, doesn't it? I don't know how many YouTube ads has already interrupted us, but we're not really fond of those either. Okay, do we have anything else? Any other question, or are you folks ready now to go out and to
Emphasize.
Huh?
Emphasize.
Emphasize. Emphasize. Yes, go out and emphasize. You know, here's the thing about it. When I get on these, when I'm teaching these principles, or when I'm relaying these principles and expounding, as I often have a way of doing, I'm not talking about working this stuff out before you're painting. I'm talking, and we're trying to build awareness of how the principles of painting work. And rather than try to feel like that you've got to start out from the beginning of, you got to plan for this, you got to plan for that. No. We use this awareness to watch what the painting is doing as we're developing it. Remember, we're visual communicators. We're communicating from our eyes to the eyes of other people, and that communication doesn't just start with our eyes. Our eyes starts with ourselves as people and as artists, and we communicate, and it goes through the eyes of other people, and it stimulates things within the other person. It's a beautiful thing. It just works the same way as with music, except with music, it's going through the ears. With painting, it's going through the eyes. And so just like a musician, or just like a composer would be putting music together, with our painting, we make ourselves aware of what these elements in painting do, how they work, and then as we're painting, we don't try to think that stuff. We watch it, and we watch it, and with the awareness that we build, more awareness we build within ourselves about how these principles work, the more the better we can make our paintings work too. Because once you become aware of something, you'll never forget it, especially if you keep using it. Let's see, what else do we have there? Oh, we got
Super Chat.
Super Chat. Thank you, Adler. Super Chat. Not a problem. So grateful you did this. Let's see. Please, Barbara, please talk about underpainting. Please talk about underpainting to tie everything together. Underpainting. Thank you for bringing that up, Bobsy. I mean it sincerely. Okay, underpainting is another one of those terms that has lots of definitions. Now, for some people, underpainting simply means to tone the canvas. For others, underpainting means what I call the block in, that first layer of paint. Now, if you're thinking about it, is possible to create an underpainting or create a toned canvas to influence what the painting is going to do, but it depends on what your intention is. A lot of people will tone a canvas warm if they're going to do a cool painting, because the warm tones will come through and emphasize the cool colors, and vice versa. But so there's one aspect of underpainting, and that can go in all different directions. It's simply it's another way that what color does to color. Because if you have a toned canvas that's toned, say in some of the tones that you see behind my head here, but you're going to be using more cooler colors intentionally. Even a snow scene, for example, you will notice that as you're putting those cool colors on, the warm of that toned canvas is going to emphasize the hue of those cold colors. And if some of that warm comes through, it's so that we can see it beside the cooler colors, it's going to give a nice little emphasis, going to nicely emphasize the colors that you place, the cooler colors that you place on the canvas. So there's one thing. I hope that was clear. The other thing is what I use blocking for as underpainting. Now, the way I use blocking, and the painters paint so many different ways, and so it's no way to discuss every way every painter paints. But the way I use blocking is I'm simply placing the colors at their values where I want them to be. That blocking, I'm not really concerned with what it is so much as I'm concerned with where the color's going. I want that get that stage set. So my main concern when I'm doing that is to show what the light source is doing, show how the light source is influencing the colors in the areas where the light rays are hitting, and show what the shadow, what's happening into those colors in the shadow areas. And so I just block it in, but I don't. I think when we're using the underpainting, one of the important things, if you want to maintain control of the painting, one thing is try not to let that paint pile up. Put just enough paint on the canvas to cover the canvas in that underpainting, and then you can, especially if you're painting alla prima, where you continue to paint at the underpainting while the underpainting is still wet, which is what I do because I love working that way. But you put that, you don't let that layer of paint build up thickly in that first layer, because if you do, it's going to make it very difficult to get those other colors to work as you place them on top and work them within that color. So I don't know whether I answered the question, Bobsy, the way you ask it, but you said as underpinning to tie everything. If you place if you're doing block in, and you play, and if you, as you're developing your block in, your intention is to place colors where you want them to be, in the values that you want them to be, that will tie the painting together. It will keep it from looking piecemeal. Now, I know there are some people who will start in a little area, finish that little area, and then finish the next little area to the next little, I don't know of any of the master painters that use that process, because all that doesn't allow the whole painting to develop together. So I better not get too deep into that, because I'll get myself in. I get some nasty emails. Well, I don't mind nasty emails. I usually just delete them. But anyway, okay. Oh my goodness, we're getting close to the closing time. Let's see. Mary Ellen says, wait a minute.
Thank you, Diane.
Oh, Adler says, thank you, Diane, and you're welcome. And Patty says, it worked out. Grateful to be here and learn from Diane. Wonderful. And Debbie says, it seems as though you've covered in this lesson, seems like what you've covered in this lesson will help a lot, particularly when I'm struggling. Working on a seascape and it appears to be flat. I think this, yeah, watch what the color does to color. Go back and watch the video that we did again and review what I was telling you there. Always use the color wheel as your guide. If you use the color wheel as your guide, it tells you what color is going to do to color when you learn how to read it. And if you don't know how to read the color wheel, go to the Academy and get our free course on how to read the color wheel. We try to cover you in every way we can. So then Mary Ellen says, it just occurred to me, what did you do there? I can't see it very well. It just occurred to me. Huh?
I was bringing the color wheel up.
Oh, it just occurred to me that we've never talked about doing a block-in for non-objective painting. Is that something that some artists do or have done? Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Where artists, especially doing color field painting and non-objective painting, Yes, where the artist it will start with, well, in any number of things that you can think of, where you start with a passage, start working passages of color first to get a theme going, and then you develop that theme by gradually building it with contrast, color contrast, value contrast, color similarities, value similarities, uh, different saturations, all different ways of going, and different ways of maybe of creating directional movement, all of that stuff. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate all of you coming in. We apologize for the syncing. I've been trying to kind of hold my hands over my mouth so it wouldn't be too bad. Maybe that was more distracting than it was helpful. But sometimes technology just gets beyond us, and it takes over, and it's going to do its thing whether we have all the settings right or not. So thank you all for being with us. Now, it really is true that in March we'll be doing this on the fourth Sunday, right? That's right. Yeah, okay. That's right. So we will have our chat on the fourth Sunday in March, and we will announce, as we always do, what the title will be then. But you folks have asked great questions. You kept me talking the whole time. Thank you so much for joining us, and to just go out there and watch what that color is doing, and look for opportunities to use those principles of emphasis, those different ways of emphasizing that color can emphasize color. So that's it for now. Hope to see you. What's going on?
No problem, Roger.
No problem.
Walked around the room while listening. Didn't watch that. Excellent job.
I walked around, that's Candace, I walked around the room while listening and didn't watch Diane talk. That's a good thing, Candace. I almost suggested that we go back to the COVID mask days. So if I had a mask on, you wouldn't know whether I was in sync or not, but well, that probably would have been irritating too. Anyway, look at it, it's going to be irritating. Okay, everybody, thanks a bunch. Thanks for joining us, and we hope to see you again next month. Meanwhile, happy painting and enjoy the journey. Bye-bye for now.